Okay. Yeah. All right. So we're live now. You should say hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
There you go. Perfect. All right. Let me know if everyone can see this, if it actually, worked. I don't know. I feel like I've never actually had a problem with it going live, but I feel like the first time I don't ask people to confirm that we sound good, it'll be like an hour in before I realize that it never actually went live. We're not gonna
Oh, wait,
mess
you
with
asked
that.
me to say hi to people.
Yeah.
Oh, that was instinctual. Hello, everyone. So welcome. Happy
I
to be
just
back in
assumed
the
you were there for the
IPA.
bit.
No, I was not there for the bit. I was not paying attention at all.
It's fine. All right, great. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. This is part 2, IPA 102, as Bavilia is calling it, also called vowels, which I feel like need their own kind of gesture there. Yeah, that's what we're doing. That's what we're here for. This is going to be, I feel like, much more chaotic than the last one, but also probably shorter, so it'll balance itself out. Hi. Oh, how many people are here? Well, we have so many people. Yes. Hi, Bavilia. Hi, Seb. Hi, Greg. Hi, Killorn. Hi. Oh, gosh. I feel like I figured
Where
out how to
are all
pronounce
these
this last
people?
time.
Oh, they're in
Illuencer.
comments. I see. I have a
Yes.
different screen.
Nemo. Nemo's here. Yes. You should be able to pull them up, right?
I can. It starts with private chat, and I have to switch it to comments.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, you see something a little bit different since you are not hosting.
Right.
Okay. Yes, sweet. Okay, cool. And Bavilia says, hi, Ross.
Hey, Bavilia. Bavilia.
Yeah. And before we get started, just as a warning to everyone, my unhinged levels are relatively high this time. Relatively high. I've been working on a big deadline all weekend, as some of you already know. So I've just been doing revisions 24/7, and I'm totally going to finish by midnight tonight. Totally. I don't have 12 chapters still to go. 15 chapters. We're not going to talk about it. Yep. All right. Are you ready to share your screen, Ross, or do you need another minute?
Oh, I'm totally ready to share my screen.
Okay.
I'm going to share screen.
Mm.
It sends me tips. Thank you.
Mm.
I want to Madeline numbers. Allow. Yay.
Okay. Add to state.
Oh,
It put us
wow.
on that side now.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I don't know why it's doing that.
I mean, I could move us. Do you think that's better?
Sure. Yeah. That
Blocks
works.
a little bit of it, but
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
I can see. Hold on. What about that?
No. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Yeah.
This one or the one before?
This is fine. So, last time on our IPA adventure, we introduced Madeline to kind of how the IPA works and how it's structured, and some of the basic distinctions that exist when describing different sounds that we can make. Some of those basic distinctions are between consonant and vowel, and then how we can make sounds voiced or voiceless. Madeline, do you remember? Can you produce any voiceless consonant for me?
Puh?
Excellent. Yes.
I feel like that's the hardest distinction for me for some reason, is telling which ones are voiced versus voiceless.
And can you make a voiced consonant for me?
Buh.
Buh. Perfect. Yes. And then we talked about the distinction between oral and nasal sounds. And can you make a nasal consonant for me? Yes. Perfect. Probably a alveolar nasal there. Then we went over this consonant chart, which does have some areas of it missing, But there are more characters that can be included. There are also different extended IPAs that you can use. The basic IPA doesn't include affricates, so we went over affricates because they're fun and because we use a few of them as English speakers. Um, we explored different nasals, both different places of articulation, which is on the top. Places of articulation. Do you remember what a place of articulation is?
Yeah, like where in your mouth you're disrupting the sound flow.
Yes, where in the mouth that you're disrupting the sound flow, and it describes, in particular, what two articulators are coming together. So you have a passive articulator and
Hmm.
an active articulator. So when you're making the p sound, uh, the lower lip is the active articulator and the
Mhm.
upper lip is the passive. When you're making the t sound, the front of your tongue is the active articulator and the alveolar ridge is the passive articulator. And then there are manners of articulation along the left-hand column there. And do you remember what the manner of articulation describes?
That's like the way you're disrupting the airflow, like whether or not you're like fully stopping it or just like how much friction you're adding to it or that.
Yes. Yes, perfect. How much friction or turbulence you're adding to the airflow and the way that you are stopping it. Bibloridians here. If it sounds the
Mhm.
same when you whisper
Avoid
it, it
it.
is voiceless. Yes. This is an important, a fun thing. You can't voice consonants when you're whispering. You also can't voice vowels when you're whispering. So everything becomes voiceless and breathy if you're whispering it like this.
Really? Uh,
Yeah.
I guess it does sound like a P when you whisper it.
Yeah. It's just if you're whispering to someone, they are able to interpret whether or not the sound should be voiced or not. And they can distinguish based on context and an expectation and other things, which I think is pretty cool.
Hmm. So if
Um,
you were trying to hide what you were saying to people that are less fluent in the language, such as to small children, whispering it would make it harder for them to figure out what you're saying?
yes, if the children have not really developed uh, those the understandings of different distinctions within the language yet.
I'm gonna try that out.
Though, if you have a language that doesn't make a voiced unvoiced distinction, so if you have a language that distinguishes between t and t, whispering, you could still aspirate while whispering, so that
Mm.
wouldn't make as much of a distinction.
Okay.
Um, we moved onwards and downwards. Um, we were introduced to uh, Madeline's consonant chart, which is pretty good. I think we agreed because Madeline was using the columns and the rows that we would expect for place and manner of articulation. However, there were some of these, like the R here, and then some of the digraphs,
Mm.
which is when you use two characters or two glyphs to represent one sound, like the TH here, SH, and CH, which represented um, different symbols from the IPA.
Mm-hmm.
And so we made a smaller chart and we
Mm-hmm.
discussed some distinctions as to whether, affricates and stops can be collapsed, which they cannot, because if I remember correctly, an affricate can start a word, but a stop
Mm-hmm.
cannot start a word.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then made some corrections here because um, the post alveolar approximant y is usually represented with the J character in English, but uh, Madeline's using the Y for that because it's expected, right?
Mm.
Like yellow. Um, so that's where we ended off last time. Uh, and yeah, the broad. Um, I'm glad that the lesson worked because this is like a month and a half later, and you remember the mechanics of the structure,
Yeah.
which is excellent. We're not going to go over all of these. I think that would be cruel, and also take a lot of time.
Yeah.
We're going to jump right in to vowels now. After that, come up, and this is what Madeline sent to me. What Madeline's vowels are.
Don't
for
be
the
horrified.
language. So we have allowed vowels. Can you read those vowels for me?
Like just say it like A-I-O-U.
And no
E. Yeah, no
no
E's.
Excellent. Okay. Because
just make it weird.
To my IPA brain, that means something very different. And you will find out. So diphthongs. That's interesting. What is a diphthong?
When you have like a combo vowel sound.
Combo vowel sound, yes. So what would that make non-combo vowels? If you know.
Unithongs? I don't know.
Close. Monophthongs.
Monophthongs, okay.
Yeah, so vowels that are isolated on their own are called monophthongs.
Okay.
So if you had a word like cat, the a sound in the middle of that is a monophthong.
Okay.
I think. And I think some people add a p in there, monophthong, for some reason. But I think that's more their own. Sometimes a p is inserted prior to. What is it? Usually alveolar plosives or stops in English, especially if you're moving from a more labial nasal sound. Monophthong. Yeah, that's a weird one. Usually it's before an M, a bilabial nasal, but I've seen it in other places too.
Yeah.
So yeah, diphthongs must be closing, be more open. Yes, okay. And then, we may get around to that vowel. Vowels must be in order. Oh, this order. Excellent. I see.
Explaining myself the like open, closed vowel things.
Yeah. Okay. So can you read those diphthongs that you have there?
Ia, ua, and o.
And then, yeah, okay. But you said the allowed vowels do not include the E sound.
Yeah.
So I'll have to figure that one out.
Okay.
Because if your vowels are I, so A, I, O, U, then that would be Ea, not Ia.
Yeah. I mean, I probably just also like can't pronounce nothing.
That's true. So with this in mind, we are going to start breaking down how vowels are described in the IPA, and we're going to make sure it's big so everyone can see it. This is
the making fun of me.
This is the I think it's what was it described to me as when I was in school? I think it's called the cardinal vowel chart. And in the cardinal vowel chart is actually quite recent. It was developed in the early 20th century. I want to say the 1920s. And it's used to describe vowels based on where your tongue is in your mouth.
Okay.
And it's the body of your tongue, not the front of your tongue. Like the tip of your tongue, sorry.
Okay.
So the body of your tongue may be pushed forward to the front of your mouth. hence front vowels.
Okay.
The body of your tongue may be in the center of your mouth. And this is like starting from your teeth working backwards, like behind your teeth working backwards.
Okay.
So the front of your mouth, then you can have central vowels in the middle of your mouth, and then back vowels at the back of your mouth, you know. And then on the other hand, we have what colloquially are known as high and low vowels, but were taught to me as close and open vowels.
Okay.
And they are high. They're described as high vowels because they are, if you imagine, the bottom of your mouth, where your tongue kind of sits, so the bottom in your lower teeth are as low, right?
Okay.
The top of your mouth, with your palate and stuff like that, is high.
Okay.
However, when we describe it as open and close, not close, close, we are talking about your lips. So whether your lips are open or whether your lips are close together. So if you could say this word for me.
Father?
Father. So when you say father, can you say father? Can you say that again for me?
Father?
Father. Yeah. So when you say father, it is a back sound, but it is also open. So your mouth is more open when you say it. If you say that word,
Feel?
feel, it is front in your mouth. It is close, and it's high. So your lips don't widen as much when you say it. They tend to stay closer together. It is also a high vowel.
Okay.
And there is also another prominent distinction that we make between vowels. And this is one that we will see here. And then, but those are, we'll do that anyway. I know one of those may be a diphthong. Well, both of them may be a diphthong. Can you read the one at the front?
Seep?
Yeah. And then the one at the back?
Soup?
And what is the difference that you notice between those?
The shape of my mouth. One's like E, oo.
Yes. So the one that is E is unrounded because your lips do not round.
Okay.
The back one is soup. And in addition to being a back close vowel instead of a front close vowel, it is also rounded.
Okay.
Right. So we have these that we're dealing with. Let's have another table. Wow, that's too big. Too many. No. Great. Okay, can I delete the columns? Yes, I can. Great. So we are going to be dealing with these vowel distinctions. So we have close, high, open, low, and we can refer to open and low vowels like it's the same thing. It doesn't matter. I think I've seen most people who talk about conlangs tend to use the high-low distinction.
Okay.
There's front and back, and there is unrounded and rounded. So these are the distinctions that we are going to deal with. Can I put that there? And can we see that on our screen? Yes, we can. Lovely. Yep. But it's annoying me that it's not the same. Okay, there we go. That is excellent. However, before we start going around and filling in some of these vowel slots, and we're not going to fill in all the vowel slots, we're going to hit the major places, and keep in mind that there are more symbols and there are more places that you can fill it in that exist, but we're not going to talk about them all, just like we didn't talk about all the sounds or all the places that can be articulated in the consonant. This is just to introduce to Madeline and get Madeline up and running. But I do want to try something. I'm going to type a word, and I want you to pronounce it for me.
Invention.
Invention. Invention. And then can you say that word for me?
Bed.
Bed. And then can you say this one again?
Invention.
Shin. Excellent. All right. And then, so we're going to put that kind of there, I guess. And then
Assumption.
Assumption. Okay. So you do the same thing I do, which is excellent because it works. So, invention here in the I typed this out in advance so I wouldn't have to do it on screen because it just takes a while. Oh, that looks awful. That looks absolutely horrible. How do I change my text here? How do I change my font? This is not good. Show fonts. Okay. We're gonna change it to. Okay, that is more pleasant. We're going to do that for all of these. No, that looks bad. Save me. Nope, still looks bad. Okay, Arial it is. It's close to the top of the list and does things I wanted to do. So, invention, right? So when a lot of speakers say invention, no, we're not doing Comic Sans, DD. I'm sorry. That has to be shut down immediately. So when a lot of people say, and I'll read this normally, invention, but the way that a lot of speakers, particularly Canadian English speakers, as well as English speakers who live in the Western United States, will say invention. So, well,
or just me.
Yes.
Not anywhere of those places.
Huh?
Not anywhere of those places.
So you have invention, and then you can also have a similar. Let's do. Why is this causing me problems? You can also have it like this, or the square brackets there is phonemic instead of like, the phonetic being the way that languages make distinction. The language itself makes a distinction between sounds, and then the way that the IPA makes distinctions between sounds. But then you can also have people who just kill the final vowel entirely, and it just moves. Invention. It just moves to a syllabic N at the end, because English does have some syllabic consonants, including N and L. I was just testing where certain sounds were, because it will be useful for later. So, for this though, when we are talking about, can you say the middle word again?
Assumption.
Assumption. So that first sound, right? That is a sound that can be indicated by many vowels in English, but in the IPA, and it is known as the central mid vowel, and it is the schwa. So, right? So you're not doing anything. It's your tongue is just resting in the middle of your mouth. It's in the center of your mouth, and it's the sound.
Okay.
In English, the schwa appears in a lot of unstressed syllables. So, inward like successful, right? And that's a U in English when we write it. So there are many letters in English that can represent a schwa, but really it's an unstressed syllable in English. It's commonly a schwa. Folks like myself may have a close central vowel, or close mid front central vowel, something like that, instead, depending on the circumstance. And that's due to Canadian raising, which also occurs in the Western United States and is just a kind of a prominent thing that happens among English speakers in North America. All right, let's get back to inventien. Yeah, the laziest vowel. Well, some languages use the schwa as a proper vowel, so you can have the schwa in stressed syllables, and in unstressed syllables, you would not, like, it would make a difference. It doesn't have to be what is known as a quote unquote lazy vowel.
Would ugly be one where it's stressed?
Ugly. The question there, would ugly is usually a different vowel.
Oh, okay.
It is because ugly, gun, so that would be an open like mid, or that'd be like an open mid back vowel.
Okay.
English has a lot of vowels that are used in different situations, and we can talk about some of them. But we're going to start at the close or high front vowel. And do you remember a word that I put in there earlier?
Seep?
Seep. So that E, if you just make and hold that E for a sec,
E.
can you tell me where your tongue is? Where do you feel it?
The front of my tongue is like right below my bottom teeth, and the middle part is like raised up right below the like palate.
Yeah. Oh, and when I mean the front, like I mean like the body of your tongue, not the tip of your tongue.
Okay, yeah. So like under the palate?
Yeah. So it's under the palate, it's up at the front. It's at a similar place where you make the y sound too. Which is why in English, in the alphabet, we say A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. Because Y is sometimes a front vowel, usually, a close mid, or a like a centralized kind of front vowel. But that E sound is represented in the IPA. We don't need the shoot. We don't need these. We're not doing a phonology. It is usually that.
An I.
Yes, the I makes the E sound.
These just make so much. They're just so instinctual,
So when I read this is an E to me, and this means something else.
Oh. Cool.
Yeah. So now we're going to move to the back.
Okay.
And do you remember one that was back here?
Soup.
And what can you hold the vowel in soup? Ooh. Right. And where is the ooh? Where's that in your mouth? Your tongue.
I think it's actually the exact same spot for me.
Ooh. It's the exact same spot as E?
Yeah.
Okay.
Same spot. Because I'm weird. I don't know. I have a problem.
Because if you start with E, if you start and hold E, and then you round your lips, And then if you make the soup sound,
Ooh.
it's back. It's further back.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's a difference between like the French tu, for example, and English tu. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you make the sound a cow makes,
Moo.
moo, right? The tongue is at the back.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Because if you made it at the front of the mouth, it would be more of a moo rather than moo. Or let's try a different word. It may be messing you up because of the. Let's try that one.
Coop.
Oh no, that's coo.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. A
yeah,
coo. Yeah. Yeah. Like a
coo.
coo.
Ooh, yeah. But when you make that
Ooh.
ooh,
I feel
ooh,
like my tongue's in the same spot, but the back of it, like the shape of it's slightly different. The back is up
that is
higher.
what we're looking for.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
that is what we're looking for. That
Okay.
is what I want you to describe to me. The back of your tongue rises up.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
That is what distinguishes a back vowel. What the back
Okay.
of your tongue is doing.
Okay.
There we go. And that is represented just with the letter U.
You.
Ooh.
Okay.
So when we're thinking about and this is useful. So when we're talking about front vowels,
Mm.
the body of your tongue, like the main mass of your tongue, will be pushed forward
Mm-hmm.
in your mouth, and it will be moving from up where your palate is with an E to lower down in your mouth with an ah sound, and we'll get there in a sec. Meanwhile, with the back vowels, the back of your tongue will rise up, kind of like when you make a k.
Okay.
Like when your tongue rises up to make a velar sound, is very similar to the motion that's made when your tongue rises up to make a ooh sound.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the distinction that you really want to pay attention to. You want to know why the vowels are going to seem to be completely different letters than what you're expecting? Blame the fake vowel shift. Yes, we can blame the great vowel shift, but there's also different people have different expectations on what those vowels are going to be based on the English that they speak. And if you want to mimic somebody else's accent, you just need to figure out how their vowel space has changed is different. And then you can quickly, adopt their vowels and mimic them like a parrot. Now we're going to move to the other classic vowel of the triad, which should be okay. I have another file up where I just had some. So this will. So that is I feel like that's a problem. We'll try that. Can you read that for me?
Cat.
Cat. Yeah. And can you read that for me?
Can.
And then can you read the one below?
Cat.
Okay. That can work. That can work. That could definitely work. And then can you read that for me?
Bad.
Bad. And then this one?
Can. Cat. Can. Bad.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That works. So Can you say it again?
Cat.
Cat. Can you hold that vowel?
Ah.
Yeah. So cat, your cat. So yours is a little bit more mid and fronted than mine would be, but that's just kind of expected. That's okay. But this is where the A sound is.
Okay.
So it is open, it's low in your mouth, and it's also relatively fronted. When you see examples of the, will it let me alter the shape here? Will it let me alter this? No, it will not. Make editable. Oh, here we go. When you look at a cardinal vowel chart, it'll probably look more like this.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because your, I mean, it doesn't have to be purely black. I don't have the energy to do that. So the E here is up here, right? It's up here at the front. The A sound is down here. So it's not going to be as, when you're up going E, the front of your mouth is going to be up under your palate. But when you're doing the way that your tongue is shaped is not going to be kind of as forward and as pronounced,
Right.
as it is with the E. And then, of course, the oo sound is back here. So this is how the cardinal vowel chart is kind of set up, and it has this inclination here to kind of communicate that difference. If I could, I would try to make this
not filled.
Not filled, but it is not immediately apparent to me when I make a shape how I unfill it. Unless I go up here, shape. Oh, there's insert, shape. No, format, shapes and lines. Make editable. I did make it editable. We're fine. I don't know. It'll just be black. There's oh, I figured it out. Oh, that's not good. Now there are no lines.
Border. Add a border.
Let's add a border. Cool. Okay. Boop, boop, boop. And then we can grab this boyo and just drop him in the middle there. So, oh yeah, and we can actually put them inside. You'll normally see them inside. Excellent. So, that is a pretty, that is like a pretty simple cardinal vowel chart, and it also describes how the vowel space is often chopped up.
Okay.
Is there something that you notice from the four vowels that we have so far?
We're missing a corner?
We are missing a corner. That is true. Let us go back to I want to, and this will be a problem with how I would say it as opposed to how you would say it, but we will persevere. And if you say it differently, then we will, because yeah, this will, this is a distinction between your English and my English, I feel, that is going to emerge. Okay. So if you say that word for me.
Cod.
Cod. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. And if you say that word.
Father.
Father. Yes. All right. So when you say it with, you say it in unrounded way.
Okay.
You say cod and father.
Uh-huh.
I would say cod and father.
Okay.
There's a subtle distinction there. Um,
Almost like
so
there's a W at the end of the vowel sound a little bit.
yes. So mine is rounded
Okay.
and yours is unrounded. And the thing is, there are, as far as I remember, there are no languages that distinguish between an open back rounded and unrounded vowel.
Okay.
No language makes a distinction between them. So if they exist in a language, they will exist as allophones. So say if there could be a distinction between father and father, right? Like if there was vowel rounding, but whether a speaker would actually care whether or not it was in rounded or unrounded. This was also one that I was a little worried, about. But so these are the two. Yeah, so we have our two our rounded and unrounded open low vowels there.
Okay.
The open one, the unrounded one is always first
Okay.
in the pair, and it also
Okay.
matches the direction of the sound here.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rounded one faces the other way.
Mm-hmm.
And this will happen whenever we have a pair of rounded and unrounded vowels. The unrounded one is traditionally placed first, and the rounded one is traditionally placed second,
Okay.
just to distinguish. And if we take these two, they would go down here on our little chart. Yeah. However, we can continue filling in some things before I ask that question again. Because then I'm just thinking about how I'm just thinking of a vowel that a word that I can pick. We'll go in a different direction for now, and I'll come back to it, and I can ask you again. So now we have another word. This is a good one.
Bed.
Bed. Now, where is your tongue when you say bed?
Bed. Kind of. It feels like my tongue doesn't move much.
Well, you got to pay attention to the parts that do move.
Like
And let's try a distinction here. Okay. Okay. So say the first one.
Bed.
All right, and say the second one.
Bad.
And then where's your tongue when you say bad?
Bad.
I can see your tongue moving in your mouth while you're doing that.
It's moving back slightly on the bad, so it's like the back part is like slightly more forward on bed.
Yes, it is slightly more forward. And so, and that's really part of figuring it out for yourself, is figuring it out exactly where these different sounds are. So in bed is an open mid front vowel.
Okay.
Boop. Brilliant.
Okay.
Um, and then I want to figure something out very quickly, because oftentimes when English speakers make this noise, make this sound. It is going to be a diphthong.
Okay.
Uh, in Canada, that's not always the case, and in California, it's not always the case, and like other parts of Western United States, because there's very similar characteristics. But we will try for, and also I believe, see, this is the annoying part of this, is that there's like some weirder parts of the vowel space. Anyway, so let's do, and yeah, just cuz. Sorry, I have a couple windows up, and so up here, let's try that one.
Day.
Day. Yes. Yeah. So you have that as a diphthong. Day.
Day.
A.
Okay.
Oh, that was good. That was good. Can you hold that again?
A.
A. All right.
A.
Can you compare that with the high front vowel? A.
It's more open,
It is more open.
and it feels more like my tongue is a little more pushed forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this, that vowel is your close mid front vowel.
Okay.
And that is represented with the letter E. Beautifully. Oh, why did it jump all the way up here? That's not useful at all. Okay. Let's go down here. All right. I hate how this works. Excellent. There we go. So now we can put that here. So now we've got the front, a bunch of the front ones down. Is there something you notice about the ones in the front that we've been doing? Is there a characteristic they all share based on the ones that we talked about that are on this? Let's get rid of that format thing. Based on the distinctions that we were talking about earlier.
I mean, like, other than the front ones are in the front? Like, other than that part?
Other than them being in the front, yes. Is there something else they all share in common?
Unrounded?
Yes. Perfect. They are all unrounded. So what is very common in languages cross-linguistically is front vowels tend to be unrounded. If you're going to have rounded vowels in a language, it is more likely that they are going to be back vowels.
Okay.
So when we talk about the three vowel system, I, U, A, the back vowel is rounded, right? If you have a five vowel system, which we haven't gotten to that back vowel yet, it tends to have two front vowel. It tends to have two or three front vowels depending on how you're counting it. One central vowel and then two back vowels, and those two back vowels tend to be rounded.
Okay.
A similar thing with a seven vowel system. Usually with seven vowel systems, you tend to have three front vowels, three back vowels. All the back vowels are rounded, and then you have a central or a open low vowel.
Okay.
Either a front or central low vowel that is unrounded. So rounding heavily favors back vowels.
Okay.
We're going to do our best because one of the sounds that is important to hit on isn't really we may be able to hit it as a diphthong, but it may, it may not be.
Okay.
And it'll also depend on like some weird vowel stuff that we're gonna have to figure out. I just wanted to check the chat for a sec, see if anybody's. What was the last thing someone said? Lol, 4 minutes ago. Excellent. So now, with our back vowels, we are going to this is much more difficult than the on my side, it's more difficult than doing the consonants because I'm fairly certain what consonants you can produce.
Mm.
All right, let's try
Road.
road. Oh, okay, that's that's not bad. That is good. I was worried for a minute.
So weird.
No. Can you do that? Can you no, because it's important. Can you make that? Can you do that again?
Road.
Road. Okay, there was a little bit of, can you hold can you hold the beginning of that vowel? Oh,
Oh.
perfect. So the beginning of that that sound that you just made is what we use that character for, and it is the
Okay.
close mid back vowel.
Okay.
So now we can have these pairs of front unrounded and back rounded. So you can go e, oo, a, o, right?
Mm.
And you can see how they pair up. And the same thing for me, at least, with open low ah at the front, and then back ah at the back. Ah, a, o, e, u, right? So you can
Mm.
actually, in your mouth, as you move up and down, you can actually feel out the vowel space and
Mm.
distinguish where those are. And the thing is, um, there's going to be distinctions between speakers as to every speaker in a language is going to produce their vowel for the e.
Mm.
So, for example, e,
Mm.
c in a slightly different place,
Okay.
right? They're not all going to be the same, and
Mm.
because everybody, is a unique, special flower. We all have our own, ways of articulating things. Our mouths are different shapes and sizes. Our tongues are different shapes and sizes. Our teeth are in different positions.
Mm.
Like you're not going to be able to replicate it. I mean, you can, and even when we're talking about oftentimes, when acoustics is taken in and you can measure the frequency, there is a band of frequency that you're
Mm.
looking for. But the thing is, even between different languages, what is recognized as an E is going to be different
Mm.
because the C in English and Z in German, the E in German is actually fronter and higher than the E in English.
Yeah.
So you're going to, there are always going to be these distinctions. You're not going to have two speakers, and you're not going to have two languages that make these sounds in the same way. Um, and that's also something to keep in mind
Mm.
when you're thinking about having a language, because you could have a language that has a distinction, and its vowels are in slightly different places than another
Mm.
language that has the same vowels, and it could sound a little different. Like if your is a little more mid and fronted, right, like more of a the sound in can, right?
Mm.
Um, you know, that'll have a very different, what is it, phonesthetic?
Mhm.
than, one that's a little more central, a little more of an Um, yeah, so those distinctions are all going to be present in a language. So um, uh, yeah, so and we're just trying to figure out where some of these vowel sounds are, because some of these vowels in English only appear in diphthongs, and some of
Okay.
these vowels split or merged differently due to um, as Vivelia mentioned, do the great vowel shift.
Mm.
And I'm trying to predict where your vowel shift vowels landed when I pick a word that I put on here. So
Yeah.
if I get it wrong, then those are my limitations.
It's okay.
Now we may have. Yeah, that's more of a British thing. Um, I want to. I'm just thinking of a good word to do for this kind of last one that kind of rounds out um, the outside of our grid here. Um, I think this'll. I think this'll work. Can you say this word for me?
Cloth.
Cloth. All right, and I need to now look at you while you're saying it. Can you say that word again?
Cloth.
Cloth. Excellent. All right, and let's also try for good measure. Oh,
Boy.
boy. All right, can you do those both again for me?
Cloth.
Yeah.
Boy.
Okay. Excellent. So we're going to do cloth. Excellent. So can you hold the the vowel in cloth?
Aw.
Okay.
Aw.
Claw. Yeah.
Aw.
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 Thank you. So wait, can you do that again? No.
Aw.
Can you do the say the word
Cloth.
cloth? Can you say shoot? That's not gonna be okay. Can you say the first word?
Cloth.
Can you say the second word?
Father.
Claw. Yes. All right. So you have a slight rounding in cloth, which
Yeah. I could that when I was thinking about it, I could like tell like I could hear the roundedness of it.
Yeah, so you do have a slight rounding in cloth. You'll notice that um if you make the yeah, Isaac, open unrounded North American cloth. Uh yeah, she doesn't have a slight rounding in cloth. No, it's the L. It's like it's shifting it.
My
Doesn't
English is uncommon.
Yeah, your English is uncommon.
uh,
The father and cloth are the similar for her. It's just the L there that kind of colors it, which makes it kind of difficult to hear the distinction of
what about
oh
like moth?
moth. Oh, okay. Moth could be a good one. Moth. Yeah, actually. Let's oh yeah, moth and let's try that. All right. Try moth for me.
Moth.
Yeah. And then the second one
Cloth.
and the first one again.
Moth.
Yeah. No, it's not.
No.
No. Uh so sorry, I got to find I'm just thinking of another one. I think why do I keep typing it like that? I have such IPA brain, I have to say. Whenever I try to, I think we will have to go with I think we will have to go. Let's try these. Yeah.
Okay. Boy, toy.
Oi. Yeah. Can you do that again?
Boy, toy.
Yes, those are definitely rounded. Excellent. Thank you. Now hold the uh, the first vowel in those words. Oh, excellent. Good, good, good. So that is getting close to our open. That is getting close to our open mid.
Okay.
Our open mid vowel. Boy, toy. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yes, good. Okay. And the open mid vowel has its own fancy symbol. Just for fun, if you could guess, what do you think would be a fun symbol for a sound that is similar to O?
A backwards upside down Q.
Ah, close. A backwards C.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, Canadian often doesn't have the father-bother merger. I mean, I have the father-bother merger, as you just noticed. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, an open O. Yeah. For Mother's Moon. Yeah, and then I think it's also, my mom is British, as you noticed by me saying mum. So, like,
Yeah.
my Canadian English is also influenced by, like a certain set of a certain by a particular English, like England English, that may be distinct. So like there are also older Canadian speakers who may have that distinction as well, where younger speakers, depending on where they are. Yeah, and then there's in Canada the different Canadian Englishes or different pronunciations are based on waves of immigration as well, which is why so many Canadian English speakers share so much in common with Western American speakers, because large waves of Canadian settlers came in the 19th century, when large waves of settlers were also coming to like California, Oregon, and Washington State. So that's why we see, and they were also coming from similar places. And in British Columbia, where I am now, you had Americans coming from California to British Columbia, particularly during the Fraser Canyon Gold Rush. And some of those people, there's a guy who changed his name to Amor de Cosmos. His original name was like William Smith, but he was a Mormon from Halifax or Nova Scotia. He's a Mormon from Nova Scotia who traveled all the way down to California, not to mine gold, but to take pictures of prospectors. That's where the money is. And then he later went back up the coast to Victoria, and he is the one who created one of the important newspapers here, the Daily Colonist, which when I got out here, I thought it was kind of wild that you'd call a newspaper the Colonist, but here we go. Now it's called the Times Colonist because it merged with I believe it was called the British Times or the Victoria Times. But anyway, yeah. So the migrations of people in large groups and like where they were coming from kind of informs the kinds of changes in language that exist. And Toronto has seen all sorts of different waves of migration. And, versions of Canadian English that are further east also, tend to share some of the changes with dialects and language areas in the east of the United States. Also because they're on the East Coast, they have some similarities. They also have been out there longer, really. So you can hear people in Toronto say like Trana, right? Like just open those up, and they sound more like Americans. They don't say
Okay.
yeah. So that's there's to me at least they sound like more like
Yeah.
American. But I have a very particular kind of Canadian English that is more has some more distinctions that I would say were more British.
Fair. I mean, this all could have been much easier if I had just binge watched Downton Abbey beforehand, because I have that thing where I accidentally pick up on accents for a while without intending to
Yeah,
do it. So
yeah. That is also something that could have been useful. But now we have filled out the outside of our cardinal vowel chart.
okay.
And we have a decent amount of information here that we can use to go back to your
Oh God.
vowels here. And we can make a little vowel chart. Let's copy that. And
Oh
I'm going to
boy.
zoom out a little bit. We can paste it. We can move it over here. I mean, we won't need all of these distinctions.
I don't know. There's
So,
definitely gonna have to be more decisions made here than we had to make on the consonant side.
yes, that is definitely true.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
we can kind of get rid of those for a sec.
Mm-hmm.
We can move our vowel distinctions down here. We can also make these columns smaller because, like, who are we kidding? Vowels don't take up that much space. You'll be lucky if my vowels take up any space. All right. So we're going up here. Allowed vowels.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you read these through the IPA,
Oh no.
what sounds do we get?
Like if I read those as if they were IPA characters, or if
Yes,
I
if they're IPA characters.
okay, so let's see. The A was like ah.
Yeah.
Okay. The I is E.
Mm-hmm.
The O was ooh.
That's the U.
That's the U. Okay.
Ooh.
Okay, that's the U.
It's like at the beginning of the first sound for like road. So ooh, oh,
Oh.
oh.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have e, o, oo, but no a.
Yeah. Okay. I definitely meant it more like the romanized E.
So what you want instead
Mm-hmm.
is something like a yeah, so sorry.
No I.
A, oo, o, but no e.
Right. Yes.
So that is yes, so that's interesting. And then we have then you have your diphthongs. And in the case of these diphthongs, then, if we wanted to add in some diphthongs below,
Mm-hmm.
then those diphthongs would be, if we're reading these through the IPA, it
Okay.
would be ea,
Uh-huh.
ea, ua, and ul.
Okay.
That is what they would be looking like.
Okay.
In
And
the
this is just some of them, right?
Well, those are the ones that you've listed. That means no. Oh no. Oops. I ignored your very important thing there.
Yeah.
English is evil. Well, English, it's just a language. Language is, I think. So vowels must be in this order. So you have to have an a first, right?
Mm.
First,
So A-O would be one.
ow,
Like A-I or
I.
A-U.
So, but that'd be I, I, I. That would be it. That'd be I. That's what that's diphthong would be.
Okay.
And then you could also have ow,
Mm.
and then you could have oi
Mm.
and oh. Yeah. So that would essentially, that would be, those would be your diphthongs.
Okay.
Yet, there is, and there's something we can talk about for doing diphthongs. And this is where we can also get into the English distinction between, I guess, stressed and unstressed vowels. And how are we for time? It's been like an hour and 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, we're doing okay.
Yeah, we're doing okay.
Mhm.
In general, I tend to suggest people assume I'm being sarcastic. You call me English? English and evil? No. Diphthongs. Yeah. Sarcasm is the default. No, I am sincere to a point. So we are going to talk a little bit about some of the unstressed vowels, and in English they would be known as like unstressed vowels. But in the IPA, these vowels are more central. You know, these are centralized vowels. They are going to make the chart a little more annoying. But are they going to make the chart a little? Yeah, they are going to make the chart a little more annoying. And there's really only two of them that we need to deal with for English speakers, I guess. Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to deal with it. So I am going to add a column after front central. And can I make this cleaner? Oh, excellent. Yes. Okay, and then we are going to, okay, this doesn't have to be as big as it is. Now, okay. And then, you know what? I'm going to merge. I don't know if we're going to merge it or not. Oh, I have that little format box, don't I? Yes, perfect. Outline. Can I fill? Cell. Aha. Color fill. Lock. Perfect. Perfect. Those don't exist. We're not dealing with them. While they do exist, we're just not dealing with them. Arguably. It's just like linguists will do nothing more than argue about different technicalities of like vowel spacing and things like that. But you know how we're dealing with it. I am not adding in like a raised open mid vowel into the midsection or anything like that. Because I think, let me just check on if I look on Wikipedia right now for the IPA. No, IPA. If I look on, because the IPA on the Wikipedia is just has like labiodental. No. What sounds is it? It just includes some sounds that you wouldn't often find. Yeah, labio. Yeah, like the. Yeah, it has the one on the IPA. The IPA on Wikipedia has like unvoiced nasals and things like that, which I wouldn't normally see on an IPA, especially when we were learning. We learned that there is a diacritic, like an extra character, like a little, like it's a little like hollow circle, unfilled circle that you can put around either above or below a nasal to like communicate that it's voiceless. But like you wouldn't put that really in an IPA chart. Like I don't remember. Like I never saw it when I did linguistics in my undergrad, and like you may see it in phonologies. That's where you may see it. I think the IPA one on the Wikipedia also has like linguolabials, which again, you would not really see on a like the official IPA chart. I don't believe has those. And if I look at the vowels, does it do that thing where it includes mid vowels? Yes, its mid vowels are just lowered close mid vowels. Yeah. No. We're not doing that. That's silly. We're not going to do that. All right. So we're going to have front central, and I am going to add a column before, and I'm going to merge some of these. I know it makes for great TV.
Jake is remembering my party trick.
And then these can also be blacked out because we're not dealing with them. Yeah, we're not gonna. Yeah, we're certainly not particularly interested in dealing with these here because it's whatever. But we'll tackle some of these. Yeah, there we go. So a common. We are going to look at a fun distinction. So, can you read the one in this box?
Seat.
Excellent. Can you read the one in this box?
Sit.
Oh, there's a distinction between those two, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah. So, seat is that front close vowel, right? It's the E, seat. And sit, it is also a front vowel, frontish. It is also close, but it's also centralized a little bit. It's pulled back. And that sound, the sound, which is quite common in English, is represented usually with that little guy. Oh no! Oh, God, that is not how it's supposed to look. I have been betrayed. I have been betrayed by Arial. Helvetica, save me. Thank you. Clearly a superior font. Goddamn. Excellent. Beautiful. This is what we want. So we have the I here. And in the IPA, they actually put it here. So you'll notice it's not at the same level as the it's not at the same level. It's not as high. It's not as close as the E. It's centralized, right? It's moving towards the schwa. And it's also a little bit more mid, right?
Okay.
It's a little lower. So that's the I.
Okay.
And then what I'm thinking about, because I think just trying to think of a sound that we would both produce that has the yeah, that's not gonna do it for me. Because I can think about how I would say it with that. If anyone has any suggestions offhand for the the central back high vowel. I'll check back in a sec if I don't figure something out sooner.
Welcome, Miles. Welcome. Oh, there's a couple examples.
People are coming up with some examples.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if that works. Put. Ugh. Yes. Yes, that is a good one. Put. Yes, I think yeah. See, I'm also looking for some minimal pairs, but I don't know if I don't think buck would work because mine is buck. Strut. Yeah, no, that wouldn't work. That would tend to be lower. And if there's a split, then Madeline could say, yeah, no, that, yeah. Yes, actually, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I think I did it. Okay, perfect. I think I got it. This is... No, I didn't. Damn it.
I have no idea what's going on.
I know, it's okay. All right. This is... Okay, so... All right. Can you read that back one for me?
Poot?
Poot. Excellent. What is...
Which version of that?
I want you to read the one that is the this one first, the one that's highlighted.
Poot.
And then this one.
Put or put?
Put.
I have both.
That's a good one. Yeah, the second one you did there. The verb.
Put?
No.
Put?
Shoot. Put.
Put?
Yes.
Like I put it somewhere versus put?
Yes. You
Okay.
put it somewhere. So you put it somewhere, and this?
Yeah. Put and poot.
Poot. Brilliant. So poot is that back close high vowel, and then put is a similar thing, corresponding to e and I. You have u and right? Put. And we...
Oh, you're right, Nemo. There's two T's.
There is two T's. Yeah, that's why that caught me off guard.
Yeah.
Boom.
Oh,
we have an upside down omega.
Okay. Horseshoe time.
Horseshoes. And much like that goes there. And so, yeah, so when people were suggesting some things like goose, like, yes, goose is good, but then like Gus. I guess we could do the name Gus. I don't really like doing names though, because it's good and good. Yeah. Boot and butt would probably have worked as well. Buck doesn't work for me because buck is an unrounded open mid vowel. And that is one of the issues. Yeah, like foot, strut, split. Yeah. So that I had to think, like, and this is one of the difficult things with English, right? We have a decent amount of vowels, and because there's so much areal variation on how those vowels are distributed, based on the great vowel change and then things that have happened after. It takes some time to kind of find sounds and words. Poot Poot is superior. Yes, and I thought it would be funny. It's something I've done before, so it was just like I didn't know if I have to fall back and rely on it. But yes, and I guess I could have also done toot and tut, which is something I've done before as well. Poutine. Ooh. Well, I say poutine with a rounded front high vowel, so that doesn't really help. Goose. Goose. A learner, but hot take I prefer. Well, some people do have fleece and goose as diphthongs, but for me, they are not. Fleece, goose. Like, there's no diphthong there. So for some people, it may be fleece, ease, and for some people, it may be goose, but like that doesn't happen for all speakers.
Oh, yeah. I don't have the diphthongs there either.
Right. So, and that is and that will be depending on what English you speak, and your own sort of idiosyncratic things. So, and when people are learning English, they're usually trying to learn a standard kind. Yeah, Putin. Yeah, I wouldn't do the ts. I would just go Putin. They do have the diphthongs. I feel like a diphthong in your vowel. I feel like, but we don't need to break out Pratt right now. Yeah. Goose. Goose. Fleas. Goose. Fleas. Goose. Fleas. Yeah. So when we are moving to I don't think everyone has the diphthongs. Say seeing. Seeing may be analyzed as a diphthong, but that's because you have the I at the end there. Eing. I think for many speakers, it's just a long front, high vowel. Like we can have different, allophonic variation. I think there's also a difference in people who say day, like people who say day and people who say day. Like there are distinctions even within the way that people pronounce common diphthongs. You don't hear it because your native language is English. Well, I mean, I've gone through the acoustic stuff before. Seeing is definitely a diphthong there. So we have gone through most of our vowels here. The main things that we haven't done is kind of gone through and located the vowels that are rounded and unrounded in each category.
Okay.
But I think that may be something for another time, maybe more like an hour and a half. With E, it's E, and then something like U, as we've discussed before. In the back, you can have U and but those tend to, some of those sounds tend to get away from, something that you'd be more familiar with, and asking you to produce those would be more, more difficult. Could be more difficult. And so when we're sitting here with our vowels that you have here, this would just kind of be a base set. But what you would want to do is if you typed out a word, right, you would want to figure out, if you type out, this is a name of somebody, is that a word that could exist in your language?
No.
I guess it would.
There'd be no E.
Oh, yeah, I think you're muted. Or maybe I'm muted.
Can you hear me? I don't think I'm muted. Can the chat hear me? Oh, Seb can hear me. Ross is now muted. Ross is unmuted.
Ross is unmuted, but then it changed. It stopped using my. It changed my mics for some reason.
Oh.
Does it sound different? Does my audio sound different?
Maybe like slightly.
Because now it's using my compute my. Okay, now yeah, because now it's using my computer's audio rather than my headset's audio, which is frustrating, and I don't know how to change it.
I don't know. I mean, it sounds fine to me. Yeah, you do sound a little louder.
I do sound a little louder. Okay.
Not in a bad way. Like, I think it's fine.
Okay. As long as it doesn't sound bad.
No.
All right. So if we go back to what I was trying to say before, malatesta. We wouldn't say it like that in your language, but is that a word that could exist in your language?
No E.
No E. Well, yes, but you wouldn't say it as an E.
Oh.
Right? If we were saying it in your language, it could be ma la testa. Right? Malatesta. If we go back to here and look at what sounds you have.
Yeah, I mean, at least all the other ones work. Like, we don't have anything else on the outside. If the E is the IPA E?
Yes, it would be the IPA E. If it's between these two.
Okay.
And these periods here are just separating the syllables.
Yeah,
they don't necessarily mean anything. So if you said, so in this case, you could have ma la testa, right? And then I did raise it at the end, te. That was a diphthong there. So ma la testa. So you would want to think about how you'd pronounce it, because if I try to pronounce this word malatesta in English, some of those are more centralized than others. Right? The E sound is not an A, it is instead either a malate. It's like this vowel here, the open mid vowel, malatesta. So you would want to think about how does stress affect the different sounds in there.
Okay.
Do your language speakers pronounce every syllable for the same length, even if it's stressed? Because if they pronounce it for every syllable the same way, if they pronounce every syllable for the same length and they give each vowel its time, then it's more likely that they're going to be keeping their quality. The vowel is more likely to keep its quality, and it's less likely to shift to having a more centralized sound. Right?
Okay.
So that is something to consider when you're working through your vowels. And I think having the A vowel is interesting instead of having an E. You may have situations where this raises.
Okay.
So if it's in front, so if it's around the post alveolar sounds, you may find that your A is
rising to an E or an I instead of just A. Yeah, so you may find that it could rise up, and you could also find that if you have an ah sound, so instead of sha, it could be she, right? Like it just raises slightly, because that is something that happens with more palatalized sounds, like the ch, j, sh, and y. Palatalization happens when vowels. Palatalization of consonants happen when consonants are near high vowels, close vowels, especially if those vowels are fronted. So you could have, and the reason why you don't have close front vowels in your language could be because historically you did, but whenever these sounds, whenever your velar or your alveolar sounds were near a close high vowel, an E vowel, they became post-alveolar sounds. So that could have been something that happens. And maybe if they were near, so you can start to think about the history of your language through the vowel space that you have. And I think one of the vowel spaces I was working on recently was very similar to this. Let me see if I can bring that up quick. But while that's coming up, basically, when you're thinking about vowels, the important thing to remember is this cardinal vowel chart. So you're able to think about where the body of your tongue is, and how your tongue is arched when you are making it. And it is something that I would say, like I was saying last time, with understanding different consonants, it's something embodied, right? It's something that you're going to have to figure out for yourself by making comparisons, going through, right? Like going around the mouth, like e, o, o, right? Like actually going through that process and figuring out where they all are, and really getting a handle on that. When you're working, here's the language. Yeah, what did I got? Mine was e u o a. Yeah, e u o a instead of. So instead of the a, I have an e. Yeah. That was the one I was working on recently. And I had a different rule for diphthongs. Where my diphthongs always started with the more front vowels. So my diphthongs included ia, iu, and io, as well as au and ao. So the direction that they move is from front to back for all of the vowels. So you could have a word like daub, but you could not have a word like doab. And it is making those choices like you've done already, that provide that kind of interesting way of cutting up a vowel space, because vowels are super important. They're in every word most of the time. Always that little thing that they're in every word most of the time. Oh yeah, Isaac was asking, what is the proposed rhythm of this language? So when you're, and that was what I was kind of getting at before with thinking about the length of each syllable and how you are stressing them, right? So because if we have
Mm.
Mala. You know, if we have a word, malesa, right? You could decide that it's malesa, right? So you're adding in the emphasis, and you can decide what the emphasis is. The emphasis can be pitch, malesa, like you can say it louder. You can change your tone, malesa. You can also just change the length, so malesa, and just keep, you know, the pitch and the sound the same. You could decide that the front one is stress, so malesa, and you could also decide that the second one has like a, you know, you could decide that the final syllable has a secondary stress. So if you're doing length, malesa, right? Like you have like a slightly longer sa at the end. You could also do that the other way as well. Oop, nope. I just transposed the whole thing to the end, where it's the last vowel is stressed, so malesa, and then I think I already did it, where the front syllable is extended a little bit, malesa, right? So you want to think about how these vowels are interacting with one another, how they interact with the structure of the word itself. And that is both the stress and the timing of your words, as well as the consonants and how they interact with one another. And the way that, you know, when we say cake, the velar sound is fronted in the mouth, right? Like it's more palatal. But when we say cook, the velar stop there is further back in the mouth. And vowels like have that, have the impact oftentimes because we anticipate the vowel. So we think, oh, I have to get ready to say the A sound. So I'm gonna make the velar forward more in the mouth, so I can prepare for it. So it's that kind of anticipation that can encourage sound change over time. There's a similar thing where if you have it's kind of the opposite of the kind of anticipatory changes, where if you have a what is it like, you could have something like take, okay, so take, when you say take, that vowel there, the A vowel, is a front vowel. It's a little more close than the open low vowel is. And that actually pulls the final velar with it.
Okay.
Right? So cake, so it pulls it along with it. But if you have cook, you know, is, we're not going to get into, the sound is you know, like a unrounded open mid vowel for some people, or it could be a diphthong, but it is further back in the mouth. So the velar there, cake, cook, it is the velar is further back as well.
Okay.
So where the vowels are in the mouth, can influence the consonants that come before it and the consonants that come after it. And likewise, consonants can also impact the way that a vowel occurs. So you could have a language that has a uvulars and a, you know, so you could have k followed by an e. But if you want to keep the uvular, you would have to move that close high vowel back, right? Because like going from k to e is a pretty far distance in the mouth. And more likely, you would probably have the k sound fronted a bit to sound more like ki rather than ki or something.
Right.
So instead of ki, you may do k, right? You may
Mm.
pull it back, pull that vowel back to the front central in order to keep the k,
Mm.
rather than shift it to a k. So there are languages where you do see, uvulars and glottal vowels and pharyngeal vowels, or, velarized or uvularized, or, glottalic consonants that pull back front vowels and create like a, kind of this either vowel harmony or another set of vowels, which, appear kind of allophonically.
Mm.
Next to those more like guttural or further back consonants in the mouth. You can see a similar thing with palatalization, where you can have sounds, particularly like palatal-alveolars or post-alveolar sounds, or just palatal sounds in general, pulling back vowels closer to them
Okay.
to make them more fronted and to make them higher. And as you move through those things over time, and as as your speakers develop those sorts of things over time, you can see how the language changes.
Mhm.
And what's interesting is that whether speakers prioritize the vowels in changing the consonants around them, or the consonants in changing the vowels, can also change over time as the language changes.
Guys.
So maybe if the stress, if you have a stress system like English, where you have a stress syllable, and that stress syllable has a stronger or more pronounced vowel than the unstressed syllables, then yeah, that vowel is going to have more impact on the consonants around it.
Mm.
But if you have a different system, where the vowels are kind of equally timed, then perhaps the consonants will have more impact on the vowels.
Mhm.
And yeah, you can have those shifts as stress changes, as the timing of the language changes, and really as the whole phonology kind of shifts over time through these different logics that the speakers share, and the speakers may not even realize that they're moving through these different they may not even realize they're moving through these different paradigms.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So that is largely vowels. I think for fun, before we go, because we have 12 minutes left, you can make each of the vowel sounds that we've gone through.
Oh god.
Oh no. Let's start with the front close high vowel.
I feel like that one's easy. The E.
E. Okay, now let's go to the front central.
I.
Yeah, good. Let's go back to this one.
E.
Okay. No, that's closer to here.
Yeah.
That's the central mid vowel. Remember the word that we used for this one?
Nope.
What Ross Bay? So Bay, A.
A.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So E,
A.
A.
A. It's these ones are so hard for me because they're not the right letters.
They are the rightest letter. I disagree. So this one is. Let's try this one. Yeah. So if you open it, so if it's a little bit higher, like or like bed, e.
E. Okay.
So E, eh,
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 ah.
ah.
Excellent. Now we can go here. This one's easy.
Ah.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Ooh. Yeah. The standard U is ooh.
Ooh.
Well.
Wait, no.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was really good. You can have your M&M. Now go
You
back to
actually
here.
have the M&Ms here still. I never moved them.
You never move them. You were prepared.
Yeah. Forgot about them though.
So we have ooh,
Ooh.
and then oh,
Oh.
ooh,
Ooh.
oh,
Oh.
and then you can just make your own low back.
Oh.
Ah, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. There we go. And it's just a matter of moving it around the mouth.
Hmm.
And and just sort of figuring out where it is. I think it is much more difficult to be consistent to make vowel sounds in a conlang. I mean, for people who, I think the common, if you start, like when you make conlangs, a lot of people recommend is like, pick sounds that you can produce, right? Like when you're making a conlang. And I think that's good. I think that's good advice because you can make a manageable conlang. I mean, a lot of people when they start out, they try to like, I'll just get a grab bag of consonants and get all the vowels and stuff. But having a more constrained one is useful. I also think adding in a couple sounds that make sense that you don't necessarily know how to produce consistently through working on the conlang, it'll actually help you to produce those sounds and like get good, as it were. But for vowels, I think is a lot more difficult because we have certain tendencies. Like I need to concentrate a great deal to not have a slight raise at the end of my close mid vowel. Like it just like day. Like it's very difficult for me not to have a slight rise when I'm speaking English in that vowel. And that is that's a consistent thing.
Right.
E, no problem. Ooh, no problem. But like no problem. A, again, like it's just right there. That was a diphthong. It's very, I think it's very difficult when speaking English to make that sound consistently. So if you wanted to make a language where you just have a as a vowel, right, without the diphthong at the end, then you do, need to work for that. And it's also, when you start to make other sounds, when you want to make that U sound, or the sound, right? Like these rounded sounds that we have in these languages. If you want to make them more open sounds, like I mean, there are some unrounded back vowels that we use in English on a regular basis. Like for me at least, the sound in gut or that may be more centralized, but gut, I guess, would be more back here. Same thing with me when I say buck, it's down there as well.
Yeah.
What's this one? This is a weird one. It's like a short voiced velar fricative. Looks like that. So you can have languages with these kinds of distinctions, and you would have ow, yeah, or you have like that back. What's that? No, I think that one goes there, and this one is a capital. Oh, they're the same. They look the same for me. Great. So, I mean, not that there's really. I don't know if there are any languages that distinguish between the rounded front open mid and rounded front open vowel. Doesn't, like they're very similar. I think the difference is one is capitalized, one isn't. But I think in most, but like in most languages, I don't think you'd find that distinction. I think that's a pretty slight distinction. I mean, if you're going to see some distinctions, you'd probably see these up here. Like in German, I think it makes this distinction. German makes that distinction. But like this distinction, it would be much less common if it kind of exists at all. In the same way that you don't have languages that make this distinction here between those two characters. Like, to make it consistently in the environments that it's in, especially when you're just speaking normally, it wouldn't really sustain itself, besides in like allophony. Like you can, but what I do recommend, especially in your circumstance, is to kind of take the time to go through the different words that you have and to think about how you would say them.
Yeah.
But then apply these pretty rigorously. And then see if there's a difference.
Yeah, I think I want to go in because, like, so when I did the relay, right, and I was working through this and I was pronouncing everything for the end of it, like, I feel like I got into, like, very consistent pronunciation flow where it felt very consistent. So I feel like I need to go back and, like, listen to that or, like, send you the audio file or something and try and figure out, like, what I'm even saying in that. Because, like, that might be a good starting place. Because I feel like it was pretty consistent. Maybe.
Yeah. I think it is about hitting that consistency, and then for the IPA, once you hit that consistency, find out where those vowels land on your little vowel chart. And that way, when you share your language, you can share your IPA vowel chart, and someone who can read the IPA can then have a pretty good crack at reproducing it. Because the IPA does not communicate all of the things, like, like, as I said before, like there are different languages pronounce the E slightly differently in a pretty consistent way across speakers. So if you just have this E, like, you just have your oo here, like, is your oo an oo or is it an oo, right? Like you can have some variation in that part of the vowel space as to what it can be. So it really takes the additional work of, like, acoustic linguistics and figuring out the different phonotactics in different situations. But it's for the very basic thing, using the IPA to communicate how other conlangers use it. What do we've got? Gut is not that far back. Yeah, gut is certainly more centralized. But it is, if I say it is slightly back in my mouth. It isn't as pronounced though. There's one language in the world with the open rounded front vowel according to Foible. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a very common one. I think it's much more likely for it to be the open mid. Some things could exist allophonically, but not the same distinct phonemes. Ross got there first. Yeah. So but there are, because I think what would be? Yeah, strut. Yeah, strut seems to be closer to back there. Though I think there are many people who would just centralize it fully and just make it the schwa.
Mm.
And you could stra. Yeah, and I guess it may still be. I assume some people could centralize it, but still keep it in that kind of open mid space to end up here, which is a sound. Like there is a sound there. It's like an upside down A with some dots or something like that. Or maybe, the upside down A is here, and then the A with dots is usually put here. And because I'm mentioning them, I might as well. I have a keyboard that has commands to kind of plug in each of these different. But yeah, the one with the dots is just a more centralized version, so I don't really care about that. But that is yeah, it's like lush, I guess. It's again, like in English, it's not like it's not like a consistent thing. It just kind of exists. And then you may produce it allophonically. But it's not a consistent thing. But we can talk about vowels for a while. But I do think that is Nemo, what about yeah, I guess. I mean, that is in a very interesting space. I mean, we do have like a kind of nasalized version, like can, and I think a lot of people, like I say cat, but you could have cat. Yeah, I guess when I talk like a New Englander, I guess that's kind of where it kind of lands a bit more often. Ross Bay revealed. Now you all know how I really sound like. No,
Oh my god.
That's the trick. You don't know what I sound like. I'm just talking like this for you now. So yeah, so that vowel would be there. And I guess in Canadian English, we often have a nasalized version. It's like with things like can or man are usually up there. And I'm kind of highlighting it there for a sec. But cat, yeah, so that's kind of where it would appear. Yeah, so yeah, like a Boston accent, it would be pretty noticeable, like I was doing earlier. But I think in that kind of famous like pack, yeah, when you say, but if you said something like pack, like park, pack, it wouldn't be that high. Cat, it'd be pack, yeah, because it'd be lower. But that would, because they do have a distinction between the front open and then the central quote unquote open. But yeah, so if you're going to have open vowels, if you're going to have unrounded vowels, it is more likely that you're going to have more distinctions among the front because some of the round vowels, especially the difference between and no, they're not. There's a distinction there, but you're more likely to have the distinctions in round vowels be at the back. You're more likely to have distinctions in unrounded vowels be at the front. Just as a point, so you can have this inclusion of this sound as we have in English, but it's kind of like sitting in this place kind of between the two. I mean, we can kick it up there, I guess. I don't know. You can just hang out here somewhere. Yeah. I was realizing Ross is teaching, and I'm noticing a few things where we all get confused. Well, yeah, I mean, we all have different Englishes. We all have different inclinations, and all of our mouths are different. So there's never going to be a one-to-one. And then we're also trained to hear certain things in certain ways. And I'm also wearing headphones. So as we go through the process, it really does take some time to move through things. The Anglosphere divided by a common language. Yeah. And then, of course, when I have my English grammar that I have is like a collection of different Englishes. And for each of those, it has standard Canadian English, and it will have, the vowel distinctions, like, the trap vowels and stuff like that. And it'll actually have in those vowels what the common realization of those vowels are. And I think that was from, I don't know, 10 years ago now. So, it doesn't capture all of the changes. And when they're describing like standard Canadian English, they aren't going into how many different ways there are to pronounce Toronto, right? Like Toronto, how I say it, right? Like there's like at least 7 or 8 ways that people from Toronto tend to say Toronto. And that's not captured in the standard Canadian English grammar chapter of the English grammar description that I have. So there's a lot of different things going on that can cause and when people use vowels to describe I'm not going to go and when we use vowels to describe things, like sometimes it's just using a symbol that makes the most sense, and there are all of these different like diacritics that you can add, especially with like a more phonemic transcription to kind of hammer in where exactly it is in the vowel space. But the use of that to a conlanger is, I think, relatively minor, right? Like, do you really need to put in that, this close mid back rounded vowel is actually a little bit more centralized than it is in other languages, and maybe it's a little bit more mid than it is in other languages, so I'm going to include the 2 dots above it and the little t below it to show that it is lowered and central. It's like, no, you can just put the O in. You can include in your description of the vowels that it is like, tends to be in a certain way. But, the point of this is to kind of communicate certain information about your language so that other people can, understand what's happening. And if you use, the English A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y as your basis, that can cause a problem, because when I look at someone describing vowels, like when Madeline sent me this, I immediately interpreted this as A, E, O, U, and no A. And I was like, oh, but then I realized that, like, oh, Madeline doesn't know what this means, so I don't know what this means. But if we all agree to use the IPA, then, despite the flaws of the IPA, and as I discussed last time, like the kind of Eurocentrism in the characters and how these like E and A, like where they're placed is based on like very specific, particularly English, but also French and German. So there are limitations to it, and it is easier for people who use the Latinate orthographies to get a grasp on it. And people are familiar maybe with the Greek alphabet as well, because they smuggle in some characters from there. So it still helps create this kind of shared way of communicating what we're talking about while we're conlanging.
Yeah.
Madeline, do you have any questions about vowels or consonants or?
I mean, I don't know if I have any super specific questions that I could talk to right now without, like, again, pulling up the actual words that I've made in the pronunciation stuff of it. But I don't know. The vowels are definitely tricky. I feel like I definitely would need to make, like, myself, like, I think once I figure out exactly how I'm pronouncing everything, make myself, like, a little cheat sheet so that I can understand it a little bit better. Because, like, the consonant ones are a little bit easier, I feel like, to figure out what they are, which is surprising.
Well, it's just that the articulators are where they are, right? So if I tell you to, put the front of your tongue and like tap it against your teeth, that's easy to do. But if I tell you to, kind of arch your tongue forward so it's in a spot that makes the E sound.
Yeah.
That's essentially what we're doing. Like that is how the vowels work. It's just if you make the sound, your tongue's in the right spot.
Yeah.
But we can kind of say, we can gesture towards where it should be. But I can't tell you where it is. And so, especially when I started learning the IPA, I would just, pick, like, after using like the instruments to actually determine, the different vowel sounds, because we all got to like practice with them. That was a fun thing to do. I would just find a word that I knew that I could consistently produce that vowel with, and then repeat that word before making the sounds. Which is it's kind of, what I'm kind of doing here, where I was like, okay, make this sound, okay, that vowel there, like hold the front of that diphthong or whatever to like try to communicate that. At Ross from Greg, are nasal vowels part of the course? Nasal vowels are not part of the course at the moment. As I mentioned up here, you can have oral and nasal vowels, oral and nasal sounds. We talked about nasal consonants, but we didn't talk about nasal vowels. It's the same thing, though, where if you have E, you could nasalize it for E. If you have you can nasalize it for and I'm like putting some sauce on it there. Usually I wouldn't do that when I'm speaking a language that has nasalization, like, in French you have bon, right? Like the nasalization there is a lot less pronounced than in those two examples I gave. And in English, sometimes there's a distinction between like a nasalized vowel or just substituting a syllabic nasal, which is also a thing that happens. One thing I will say for nasalized vowels is that it does change. Speakers of languages with nasalized vowels often interpret the nasalization as a change in pitch to some degree. So if you nasalize, say, the E sound, they may interpret it as a higher pitch, but they could also interpret it as a lower pitch. So instead of bean, you could end up with like, that couldn't be interpreted as a lower pitch sound. So then they would just shift it lower in the vowel space. So bean, so it could become bin, right? It still sounds like an E, but it's lower. It kind of gets closer to a front central vowel or closer to a close mid vowel. And this is like in French, you have the it is more of a the nasalized background vowel is less like a close mid vowel and more of an open mid vowel. So instead of bo, it'd be bon, on, all. Yeah, it's lower. right? So like sometimes it lowers, and in other languages, when vowels are nasalized, they can be higher. And again, that is something that is a paradigm that the speakers of the language community decide over time. And what, yeah, so we're not necessarily going to go over all of the nasalizations for all of the vowels. It's just a thing that could happen. Yes, it's usually a reduced set. The nasalization can also cause. There are some languages where every vowel has a nasal counterpart. Those languages tend to have fewer vowels, though, like fewer vowel qualities, right? Like you could have e, u, e, o, a, and then have a nasalized version of each of those. E, u, e, o, a. And that would be fine. But if you have but the more the more oral vowel qualities you have, it's less likely that each of those is going to have a nasal counterpart. There are also rhotic vowels. So for rhotic versions of English, like mine, if you have a word like hunter, that final vowel is a rhotic schwa, right? Like hunter and stuff. Hunt. Yeah. So, you can have rhotic vowels as well. There are some languages that have multiple rhotic vowels that they distinguish from one another. Like there would be a difference between huntar and hunter and huntir and huntur and huntor. There are a handful of languages that do that. There's one in particular I'm thinking of that's in Central Asia, I guess what would be now a part of Pakistan, but historically it would have been more more independent. Why is it? Oh, yeah, sure. That's not technically a blank space, I guess. That would be more here. Boop. Is it going to do it? Is it going to do it? Is it going to do it? Yes, it's going to do it. Sorry, I have to press on it properly. Here we go. It's probably more closer to over here. There we go. So yeah, so that is so there's the central high vowel. There is also a rounded counterpart, which is less common. But yeah, you have e is kind of where that is in the mouth. Yeah, so then I got that yeah, high central vowels are useful to know. The area around the schwa, that tends to shift about a lot. Yes, it does tend to shift about a lot because as you see here, if we look at this, right, like there's a decent amount of space that kind of separates where the is from where the is. So you do have a decent amount of space where right? So you have a large amount of vowel space to produce something like an something like an in. Isaac, am I wrong that they have lots of rhotic vowels in English? I think usually we can talk about having 3 or 4, depending on the dialect. There is the or the sound. Then there is the R in like car. And then what's my other one? car, or war. So car, war, and then so yeah. And then the car is, for me, well, for any English speaker, that one would, for English speakers, that tends to be the open back rhotic vowel. Mine is rounded. Madeline's, I assume, would not be. Then the one for like war, that is an open mid back rhotic vowel. So that would be in this vowel space here. And then the one like hunter would either be central here or more of an open mid here. Yeah, so that's where the kind of rhotics would be in that area. But yeah, we do have a few hard or yeah. So we do have a few in English. I'm just saying there are some languages with more. With like a truly like they're like they have like 7 vowels, and each vowel also has a rhotic, and they distinguish between one another, and the oral and rhotic vowels are distinct. And I think that is very cool. And I have a conlang. I have a family of conlangs that is like one of the major distinctions in the vowels. Who's yeah. But what are some other? There's some other tone is a big one that I'm not going to talk about because I don't. Besides very simple tone systems that I have encountered with indigenous languages of the Americas, and oftentimes the ones I encounter are those that have like a low tone and a high tone. Oftentimes the high tone is with stress. So the stress is determined by tone, like more of a pitch accent maybe that we could talk about. But yeah, like all of the different complex contour tones and things like that, that is totally an option. That is not something that I am very good at. Glottalization is certainly a thing, and one that is also prominent that we see in other languages is also phonation. So phonation for vowels is the airstream that you're using. The kind of basic phonation is like a modal. It's called a modal phonation, and that's just when we go ah, right? And that's, I guess, equivalent to being voiced in a consonant. Then there's a breathy phonation. Right? Like, so instead of cat, you could have cat, right? So you have it's breathy. You can also have creaky phonation. So instead of whispering it, or instead of a modal phonation, you can have an so cat, and that is similar to a glottalization. Though you can do other things with your glottis to change the airflow. And there are languages, specifically, I'm thinking about some like Mayan languages that do have a breathy, modal, creaky phonation distinction among the consonants. And that may eventually transition to a tone system. Because modal may be interpreted as a low tone, where creakiness may be considered a high tone. So yeah, so there are different kinds of phonation. You can have glottalization, and different kinds of you can have emphatic vowels and things like that. Vowels that are influenced by pharyngeals and things. There are a lot of things you can do with vowels in and of themselves that can make them interesting. So people mention triphthongs, so you can have longer sequences of vowels, and you can also have vowels that are next to each other but don't produce diphthongs. So you could have like they just keep their great. They can just keep their so you could have a word like this, but it could be mian.
Oh, I do that. The
Instead-
vowel hiatus or whatever thing.
The vowel hiatus, yes. So
Yeah.
you can have a hiatus. So you can have mian. It doesn't have to be mian, right?
Mm.
And I guess in your case,
I've been using a little like a single quote
mhm.
for those.
So you can, so yes, you can use vowel hiatus. So, and that can create some interesting. I have a language that uses vowel hiatus, and you can have words that essentially like start with start like ma or, but then you can also have things where the ma has a low tone and the or has a high tone. So you can actually like have a switch of tone. So it may feel like a contour language, but it's simple because I can't do it and I don't want to do it. Ballistic vowels. Yes, I have also seen stuff about ballistic vowels. I don't know much about it besides that they exist. So I can't say too much about it. Yeah. So that was about 2.5 hours. You said 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah. No, that
Okay.
definitely works. Yeah.
I am good here. Yeah, and I think vowels are a bit harder, a bit more manageable. We were able to build it out, though. It's this vowel contour chart. No, this was it cardinal vowel chart. Sorry. Talked about this for 2.5 hours. This cardinal vowel chart is kind of the thing you want to think about when you're considering where vowels are in your mouth when you're speaking. And thinking about vowels in these distinctions when you're carving up your vowel space. And I keep talking about the vowel space as something that you like carve into, but like when you have a language, you're making what we're thinking about when we're thinking about the phonology of the language. What is a phonetic distinction? We're thinking about how the speakers conceptualize difference in vowels. So, is a and a, like, are those really that different? Like, if I've can I also have can? No, like can, like, how different are those? I can have con, right? Like chigas khan or whatever, but like that's at the back of the mouth. That is, that is the distinction between can, a front open mid open vowel, and con, which is a open back vowel, right? So like that's a big distinction. But is there going to be a distinction between can and can? Probably not. Because in English, I have cat and can. That vowel is is allophonic, right? Like it's the same vowel for me. It's just the nasalization kind of raises it a bit. So yeah, you want to think about how we carve up that vowel space. And like you may have a language where you could have the oo like in toot and the like in tut, but they may just be the same vowel, right? It may just be oos are us in unstressed syllables, right? Like, so you may have an underlying, kind of, that's what these kind of brackets are for, like the phonemic. You may have a phonemic allophone of oo as in unstressed syllables, but like your vowel chart may still just look like this, right? Because like why, like the what you're trying to communicate with your vowel chart when you're doing a phonology is what are the actual distinctions being made? Could there be a word that is both toot and tut in your language? In English there is, but in other languages that may break the rules, so you wouldn't want to include that. Yeah, so you want to, like, how do they think about it. And you could have, as I mentioned before, for Madeline's language, like there may be a situation where the e sound becomes an e or an I if it's beside a palatal, more palatalized sound, for example, like a post-alveolar. Especially the palatal approximant, the y sound has a tendency to raise things. So yeah, those are some of the because I think for yellow, for example, I believe that the underlying vowel is the open mid vowel in yellow. But if you say bed is lower in the mouth. Is higher in the mouth. So that palatal approximate does in fact like lift it up. So you could have something very similar in a language. And then that would just be allophonic, and that would be something that you would note in your phonology documents, but it wouldn't be something you'd include in your chart. And I think that's something that people can really lean into, right? Like allophony, thinking about these distinctions and differences that are made in a language, rather than trying to make all of those surface distinctions, right? Like if you want to include a lot of sounds in your language, you can do that. You can do it through allophony, rather than just saying like, oh, my language has 20 vowels, like, you know, some crazy Germanic languages do, including ones that I'm have an affinity for. Kind of like colors. Have we mentioned length? We kind of mentioned length. So you can vowels are also commonly distinguished based on length. You can have a length distinction based on stress. So when I say see, for example, when I see something, that is a long E vowel. In English, your tense or strong vowels tend to be long, while your weak or short vowels tend to just default to these more centralized sounds, including this one, which yes, tends to be more central. Because I'm like, it tends to be more central than the related tense vowel. And how those are expressed is like this. So you can have, come on. I have to actually click it and do that in order for it to, there we go. And that may be difficult to see. It is not a colon necessarily. It is these little arrows here. So you can have, there. So you could have these distinctions here for long, half long, for a normal length, half long and long. What does, you can also have double long. I've seen some people do that. What does it mean for a long vowel to be long is a very good question, and it depends. There's no length, like there's no stipulation as to how long a sound has to be. But you can ask in your language, is there a distinction between ba and ba? Like if they hold it, is there a distinction? And you get to decide how long that length is. You could also have a length distinction in your phonology. Like, so you could have like, you know, it's like, oh yes, they have this distinction, but what is the underlying this distinction? It could in fact be, you know, it could just be something more centralized as a short vowel and the normal one for the long vowel. You know, or it could be, you know, the short one could be like that and the long one could be like this. How that would work would be how it fits into the whole system. Because if you had something like this, with the underlying values could be, why is it doing that to me? The underlying values could be this for the high vowel, but it could be that for the low vowel. So it kind of depends on the sound system and how the sound system works. Because you do have those sorts of weird finicky bits pop up. But yeah, length is sometimes in some syllables, there has to be a distinction between a shorter length of a vowel quality and a longer length of the same quality. But how long they have to be is determined by the language. Like there's no set timing for how long a length is. Vealers also will trigger raising. Vealers can trigger raising. They can also trigger backness or centralization, depending. Palatals are particularly fronting. Palatals are very fronting. Yes, that's very common with palatals. That different vowels are analyzed as short and long feels very Germanic, kind of. In Germanic languages like English, I think the distinction is between weak and tense and lax, or weak and strong, usually is kind of the language that you see around English vowels. Length isn't usually how that's described. If you go on Wikipedia, I'm pretty sure it'll say tense and lax. I think that's kind of the more common prevailing one. But length, I think, what is a good one for length? I think I'm just going to type something quick. Let me. There we go. There we go. Oh, yeah, like Hawaiian, for example. In Hawaiian, there are long and short vowels, and the long and short vowels have the same vowel quality, largely. I think there are a couple where it changes if it's long, which is something I mentioned that tends to happen. And I believe it is with the more open vowels that you tend to see the changing in vowel quality. And then you may also have things where like you can have a distinction between long and short vowels, but that distinction only exists in stressed syllables. So you can't have unstressed syllables with long vowels in them. But that is all I really have to say with vowels.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Vowels are crazy.
Yeah.
Definitely crazy.
True length or length where it realizes as a quality distinction. I don't know what that's in context to. So there are when length distinctions occur in a language's vowel system, sometimes it'll change the vowel quality, as I depicted before. So you could have, the long vowel could be an open low, but the short version may be a central. However, in other parts of the vowel system, the long vowel may be the close high vowel, and the short may be the close high vowel as well. That just kind of depends. And it is something, the change is something you may see more either in the close side of the vowel system or in the open side of the vowel system. But it will be, if it happens, that's kind of where you see it. So in Hawaiian, it's in the open side. So you have a long A, but you have a short I think. And you have a long ah, but a short So that's the distinction in Hawaiian. But you do have a long E and a short E. You have a long oo and a short oo. So that's the, so even in phonologies where the vowel system has a length distinction, the quality between the long and the short may change in some circumstances depending on how the vowel space is carved up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's brought up before you got the Hawaiian example. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
Caught up with that.
Was comma was glottal stop in the language.
Oh, I think that was the thing I mentioned when I was doing vowel hiatus. I was using the single quote thing there to mark it. I think that, I don't know.
If you write down that that's what you're using it for, I mean, usually in, I think a little, whatever we want to call it, a little tick is commonly used to mark primary stress.
Okay.
If it's used to mark primary stress, particularly when it occurs in a word. So when it's not the first syllable. I mean, I just tend to use it wherever to mark primary stress. But you can, in orthography, it's commonly used to mark a glottal stop. But you could use it just in your own notation for marking hiatus and just say that. Like, you just have in the vowel section of your phonology, this means this, and then people would understand that because like, I don't know if I've talked about it before, but like every group of linguists that handles a specific region of language or like a language family or part of a language family have their own systems of notation to do the phonology and also to do the phonology. So like, not every tradition of linguistics that is around today uses the IPA. So they don't use IPA symbols. They have their own symbols that they use, and they use them in their own consistent way. But you have to go to their chart at the beginning because the chart tends to be the same. So they'll say, oh yes, the when they're writing how a language, the word is understood in the phonology of a language, instead of doing the like fun swoopy S for the post-alveolar unvoiced fricative, the sh sound, they'll do an S with a, inverted pointy hat thing. They'll just pick something and they'll just do that, and they'll do it consistently, and it'll be something they do that people in that field just do. And so, if some conlanger is like, oh no, you must use these very specific IPA characters to describe what you're doing, it's like, you don't really, because linguists don't. Because they, these traditions were developed by different people, and those people then had students, and those students cited them, and they continued using the traditions that were established and handed down to them.
Makes me feel less bad about my
yeah, so it's fine. Did you talk about nasal, breathy, and all those kinds of vowel? Yeah, yes, I did. I did mention those briefly. But yes, Americanist, sinological, all annoying when you come across them. Yeah. The inverted pointy hat over the S is called the hatzek when it comes from Czech. Yes. There's just like a specific word. I believe it starts written. It would start with a C. And then is it a macron? What is going on? Why is this happening to me? What is going on? Oh, there it is. Is it called a macron? No, it's not called a macron. It's like a macron, though. Like, I can't be expected to know all of the names of all the diacritics. I think that is a charon. It's like macron. A charon. Chiron? Charon. So yes, a charon, and then a circumflex. I guess it's a reverse circumflex is a charon. How do you pronounce charon? It's one of those, I even encounter words that I see and I don't understand immediately. Oh my God. It's not letting me type for some reason. That's very frustrating. Yeah, so there's that. Oh, I guess because it locked me into the chat or whatever. Circumflex, but inverted. Yes, that is a Charon. New word learned today. Jake wrote it correctly. Yes. Karen. I don't like Karen. And then that would be a rolled R. Karen. I when I see an O, I would be more likely to Charon to round it. I wouldn't immediately reduce that to a schwa, even if I stress the first syllable. But yeah, that is vowels. I think vowels give you a lot more work to do to figure out than our little consonant thing. That was really quick and dirty. We were able to do that.
Yeah, we'll have to do a follow-up, or at least I will have to do a follow-up of how I'm interpreting this once I think about it and look at how I pronounced this before, because yeah.
It's R because it's broad transcription for English, and I don't like it.
Yes.
But I think that'll be
I think I'm being summoned.
yeah, that's good.
The timing's probably pretty good. That
the
I'll
timing
be right
is
there,
good.
okay, bud?
I am complete.
Okay, I'll be right there. Okay. All right. Did we need to do anything else to wrap up? I don't know what's going on yet next. I'll need to get into. I need to actually sit down and spend some time going through the spell language to incorporate the stuff from the relay. But I feel like it's past me far enough now that like I won't use specific examples for anything, but I feel like it'll be fine, to start going into some of that stuff now. So once I have a free Sunday in the next couple of weeks, we'll start getting back into that, and maybe we'll do tones with Let's Have a Boba. I don't know. We'll see.
much better people to get tones in for, I have to say.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't have anything else.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank everyone for their contributions throughout and providing reminders and little things that they'd like to bring up and talk about. Why Pinion is okay, actually. Yeah, Pinion's fine. Yeah. I think Pinion's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I'll be right there, but I promise just one more moment. You're scared of a skeleton? I don't know what's happening. But yeah.
They found the skeletons in your closet.
Apparently. I don't know. But thank you so much for sitting down with me again and going over vowels. I feel like this is significantly more helpful than the few things I tried to read, which I guess even makes more sense for vowels given how individual it can be for how people pronounce them and stuff. And if people can't hear how you're trying to pronounce things, it's kind of confusing.
Yeah, and I think vowels is definitely more of a vibe, and and I do appreciate in every single this is how you make a conlang video, they do go over here are the consonants, here are the vowels, but they don't really necessarily explain how vowels work. And we went over the distinctions and went through how they're pronounced and went around those, and then talked a bit about how they're realized in language and how vowel spaces and phonologies work a little bit. If we have more time, maybe we could talk about why the different vowel systems, 3, 5, and 7 vowel systems tend to work the way they work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that is pretty good.
Yeah. Just 1 second, but he's trying to break into my studio right now. I hear you, dude.
Oh no. But yeah, that's vowels, and we have the last 2 weeks and over, I guess, 5 hours. No, 7. No, probably closer to 7 hours. 6 or 7 hours. We managed to kind of get through this in a way that stuck, because you did remember a good amount of what was important. From the first time round. So I'm pretty impressed by that.
Thank you, thank you. And we'll just have to have people, as I continue doing like the conlanging streams, we'll have to call for like 1 or 2 like quizzes where people send me something in IPA and I try to pronounce it and then they correct me. And then eventually, after like a few years of doing those, I'll like have it down pat, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think you can do it rather quickly. I don't think it takes too long
We'll
to
see.
be quite honest. All right.
Yeah. But all right, yeah. Thank you. Thank
Oh.
everybody for being here. My kid's gonna have a conniption if I don't go open my door. So yes, IPA quizzes for the win, Greg. All right. Bye everybody. Have a good weekend. Thank you, Ross.
Thank you, Madeline. Have a good day, everybody.